we have a friend today who will accompany us. His name is Arik Roseni. I'm sorry, I am nervous, therefore I have pronounced it maybe a little bit wrong. And here, welcome Arik. We are now both visible in the screen. Please tell me
Okay.
once again how I pronunciate your name correctly and introduce
Yeah,
yourself.
Arik Roseni.
Roseni, yes.
Roseni. That's, yeah.
Thank you very much that you join us here.
Thank you.
Do you want to say something from the get-go? Maybe an introduction, maybe some words that you have on your mind right away?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would like to say something similar to what you have just said, that we are all learning and we are all friends here. We are not gurus of each other. So this is a friendly conversation, and I'm here just to share my observations, something that I learned from working on myself, from helping others, from learning from other sources. But I'm not at all in this position of all-knowing person who knows the absolute truth and things like that. But I believe that we are here together. We are like-minded people, and we are here together to make this effort towards going to the higher consciousness, so that we can observe our life, look at our life, and really see that we live meaningful life, or at least more meaningful than we lived in the past, that we are improving in the direction of the meaningfulness of our life.
Beautiful. We have been in advance, before organizing this stream here, we have been speaking a little bit with Arik and getting to know each other. And as we discover, the first time I have found Arik's video was here on Facebook, that led to his channel on YouTube, where he has shared his experience about liquid fasting, or not liquid fasting, fasting is my part, about being on liquids, on a liquid diet. He will be speaking about it for a very long amount of time, and this is an incredible achievement I want to point out of my own experience. And so it came that for me it appears that a common point where we connect with each other in the first place, let's label it with food. Would you agree on something like this? Like, how can we change our life, and how can we achieve the realization of higher consciousness with a simple tool as food? Is this label sufficient to help us?
That's a very, very good question. I wanted to talk about few areas today where actually the change starts, and where the change is actually. Like, if we change those areas, then inevitably our life will change for the better. Food and everything that is related to food is one of the areas. It might not be sufficient, but usually that people who make this change with their food in the direction of lightening up their diet and introducing fasting and other things that I believe I will have this opportunity to talk to today, usually many other areas get affected, and usually even people who change only this, usually they report drastic changes in their lives. But I would like to talk about few areas, including the area of food.
But we can start from that step, from the step about food. We can go with that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
then let's dive into this, and I have one first question that I had on my mind from our first talk, where we got to know each other. So,
yeah.
Please, Arik, tell me, are you a breatharian?
Okay, that's a good question. I do not consider myself to be a breatharian. I do feel that certain percentage of my nourishment comes from energy, from pranic sources, you could say, from the energy sources. Prana means energy. But for now, I am so you might say that I'm a breatharian to a certain level, but I believe that all of us are breatharians to a certain level. But I cannot see myself for now living without food, not food like I'm on liquids, but let's say in my case without liquids for extended periods of time. I do implement quite a lot of fasting in my life. So basically, I might say that I go without food at least half of the time, but quite extended. I didn't make the calculations exactly how, but it depends what we like. I could say that I am partially Breatharian, but as all of us are. So that's my answer.
Yes, that's exactly what I wanted to get to, because then we have like steps. Of course, you mentioned that like there's prana, maybe below that there's breatharianism, maybe below that there is liquidarianism, maybe below that there is fasting as the first step, maybe something like this. But
Raw food,
raw food,
vegetarianism, yeah.
and in the first place, just the interest to change your life or something like this. But what is the very definition actually of the word breatharianism? Because yeah, I don't want to go into because I want to ask you, what is the definition of the breatharianism? How do you define it?
Yeah, I personally defined it that Breatharian person can is able to sustain himself or herself feeding from the sources other than physical food or liquids. So that's on the practical level, on the energy level. Now, in order to achieve that, a person has to do lots of spiritual work to open up, on different levels, on a physical cleanse, emotional cleanse, to really tap into those higher energies, those higher realms. So, but on the practical level, it's just the ability to nourish from the sources other than physical food or physical liquids. Now I think that this ability, it's not black and white. This ability varies from person to person. So a person can be able to sustain themselves, let's say 70% or 60%, and then they will need a particular amount of foods or drinks in order to complete it. Or another person might be able to sustain themselves 20%. Or another person might be able to sustain themselves 85 or 90%, and then proportionally, this last person that I mentioned, they will need much less physical food or water than the person who is able to sustain themselves that sustains themselves 20%. So it's not black and white. And as we cleanse, as we work on ourselves, as we develop, then I believe that our ability to sustain ourselves with energy sources and abstain from taking physical food grows and develops.
So, if I understand correctly, it is like there is a body mass. So, like my weight, I'm weighing, let's say, 65 kilograms, and it doesn't depend on the volume on the surface of the form. So let's say there is someone who has this exact the same form as me, but if I'm, let's say, if I have a different, a lighter type of nourishment, then my weight will be in the same form as the other one, being let's say less concerning the weight. Let's say I will be weighing 50 kilograms, and the other one who is eating yeah, solid food or other things like this, he will be weighing 80 kilograms. So the form is the same, but the mass changes. Is this something?
Probably you might say that. I have never really inquired into this particular aspect of, but yeah, you might say. I guess you might say that.
I
Yeah.
just imagine that there is like we appear on the surface to be a human. We appear to be all more or less similar. We can be compared to how tall I am or how what my body mass is. But then there is something else. Then there is something else that defines the actual parameters of what it means to be a human being. So the question is that appears to myself, what are actually, okay, you mentioned some physical changes, like of course you go through cleansings, your emotional change take place, but what about social changes? What about when people look at you and they cannot, is it, yeah, they cannot relate to you. Is it something, a social change? Does a certain kind of social change come along with, let's say, movement in that direction?
Absolutely, absolutely. So your reality, your inner reality starts changing once you lighten up your diet, and especially if you go beyond, let's say, beyond the vegan stage in the realm. But even if you go from the regular, like standard American diet, like omnivore diet, where you eat everything, to vegan, and then to clean vegan, where you eat just whole foods, and then you go to the realm of raw foods and maybe fruitarian, liquidarian. So of course, like your consciousness changes, your perceptions become sharper. You start thinking differently about things, and of course, it might affect your personal life and personal relationships, and therefore, along with this food journey, it is very, very important to be engaged in spiritual practices such as meditation, for example, such as grounding, so that you know how to, because it might happen that once you lighten up your diet, and if you move in this direction, you will start being exposed to the higher realms in terms of spirituality. But it's important also to be functional, to remain functional on earth, you might say. And for that, you need to maybe to learn some grounding techniques. You also need to develop real compassion towards people, because once you become happier, once you become lighter, then if you don't have enough compassion, that you might get into this loop of just judgment, just judgmental attitude towards other people, and then first of all, it lowers your vibrations, it destroys your relationships, and it's not the point. We're not here to judge other people. We are here to allow other people their choices and to help other people who wants to get helped. But if you just get into this judgment loop, you just basically get nowhere. Yeah, so that's what comes to my mind right now. So you definitely need to work on your social skills, on your communication skills, on your acceptance of other people, tolerance towards other people, along with walking this path.
Thank you. I went into the topic of Breatharianism so deep because there is a Pranic World Festival going on right now, organized by Nicolas Pilarz in Italy, and so I'm simply following them. And since we are somewhere close, you basically said that, of course, food is like, it is one point from which we can access the path of our realization of potentials. There are different steps,
Right.
and you are going to speak about it. So the question that I want to ask here now is, what is your potential that you are realizing here in human life?
Look, here we talk about different subject that I wanted to talk about. It's actually called life calling or life purpose, to realize what you're here for. So in general, I think that as we get cleaner on all levels, then our life purpose becomes more and more evident. And then it is very important to make actual steps, not to keep it just as an idea, but to make actual steps and to start realizing it in real world, even little by little. So at some point, it became quite evident for me that I would like to actually to explore this realm of spirituality and higher spiritual states, and then to help people with this knowledge, and what we are doing now, it's actually a little step in this direction. Also, my other activities, my YouTube channels, and other activities that I'm doing, different areas that I explored, such as raw foodism, such as liquidarianism, such as fasting, and other, to just to share this knowledge with the people, with the like-minded people, again, not from the position of a guru, but from the position of a friend who has certain experiences, who is willing to learn from the experiences of other people. And maybe there are people who are less experienced in certain areas than I am, because they just did it for less period of time, for shorter periods of time, or they somehow did not get exposed to things that I got exposed to. So I can help them. But in general terms, it's just like that, just to get into this realm of higher levels of spiritual development, and to help with this knowledge with other people, to other people who want to be helped. Sorry.
And to advance on that path, whatever may be, in order to make secure and safe steps, in order to learn the mistakes, we need also to connect with each other, especially when the time is changing so rapidly. Right now, information that we are getting to know, finding out, we are building ideas out of this according to our experience that we can kind of experience in our life and confirm these ideas. But at the same time, like literally maybe during I'm building up certain ideas, I see in other information that it is already changed. The original ideas, they are already, it's like they are not the best, not the clearest. As you said, it is like a cleansing, so they are so to say not as clean as another kind of information, and this is popping up everywhere right now. And so yes, in order to make these steps, and even more, I want to tell an example here. As I'm an artist and I'm painting, I in my imagination in the original place started to understand it is not how clean I am, so to say, but how much abstraction there is within me. It is basically the same thing, it is just another word. So
Absolutely.
when I see a picture, I can say, is it like real? Is it showing a reality, or is it abstract? So I cannot recognize the reality. This is a very definition of a style in art called abstractionism. So you do not recognize reality. From that
Yeah.
point of view, when we connect, I want to give you here an image, I want to give you a thought of my big picture maybe, and then I want to ask you what you think about it. What I want to share or to show is that when we all connect together and this connection is stable, this, let's say, pattern, which is three-dimensional, five-dimensional, endless many-dimensional, it can be ignited with one single spark. It can be enlightened with one single spark. It is like water that is structured. If you send an electrical signal, this signal will spread everywhere very fast. And that's for we need such a structure, so to say. But in order to build that, we need to make certain steps safe, secure, clear. So I find it very beautiful. I maybe didn't manage right now, but what do you think about it? That's what I want to ask you.
You mean about the importance of building the community of like-minded people?
Exactly. And then when we have built that community, that we can kind of spark it with one single signal, with one single, like now is the time.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think it is very, very important that we build a community of like-minded people, and actually it's one of the areas about which I wanted to talk. If a person wants to make change in their lives, they need to find like-minded people and communicate and share ideas in whatever area. So it's part of personal change. But I think that that big community of like-minded people who are on spiritual path, and each person might be on their own spiritual path, but we all share this idea of raising our vibrations, of working, of changing life for the better, of helping others. We all know that by creating certain critical mass of people, we can actually influence what is happening in the world, and we can make the world a saner place, more sane place. We can do many things, and therefore this activity of creating community of like-minded people is super important. is super important. But again, it shouldn't remain just as an idea. Each one of us has to see in his or her life how they connect, because we have now so much opportunities for connection through the internet. We can connect even if we don't have like-minded people or enough like-minded people in our actual vicinity. We can connect. We can join Facebook groups. We can connect, and that's actually the right use of the internet. We actually, because you can use the internet many ways. Many of those ways are actually degrade you. They lower your vibrations. But that's actually the right use of the internet, to contact people, to read the posts of people, to see who is a like-minded person, to watch videos of people, and then to communicate, and then get to know those people, start communicating on a personal level. And like that, we create a community, and then they connect us with the people they know. We connect them to the people we know, and like that, we create this very big community of like-minded people. And in my opinion, it's less important that it's online and like that all of us are in different countries, because we are all connected anyway in the universe. All connected. So we are connected with our thoughts, we are connected with our energies, we are connected with everything. So it's less important. And then at some point, probably more and more like-minded people will also start manifesting themselves in our actual vicinity. But we shouldn't think about it. We just should think about flowing the information out, communicating. That's what we should think about. And then changes will take place.
Exactly. What I did not understood, let's say 2 years ago, is that actually everything that materializes is already originally according to my intention. The only thing is that my intention is sometimes abstracted, and therefore what actually happens with me, it appears to me like this is not what should be happening, and therefore it's like I look for some kind of a materialization. How can I materialize stuff? But this way we are looking away from the fact that actually this whole body here is a tool to materialize actually our incoming information into our space. And this is simply a fact that is observed. I mean, when I started the first thing when this started to being understood by my body was about 6 years ago. Then I understood that my thoughts, they are traveling. I kind of observe them like a fork going out of my head and going somewhere else. But next I started to observe that emotions move also through space. It's like one emotion of love, for example, I see it is happening here, then it goes out, goes to someone else, and his behavior changes. And next,
Absolutely.
it's just amazing, because today I'm speaking with people and I understand what kind of a responsibility I actually have when I speak with them, and I understand how I influence this whole situation. And sometimes
Exactly.
I was out of balance and I did some things which were, let's say, not wise. Nothing bad, nothing, but simply stupid behavior where I simply needed to understand that this is because of my doing here happening right now. And yeah, that's why probably I'm so much connecting with the idea of yours, a community of like-minded people today. So it's just life proving for me.
Absolutely. And I would like to add to that, to what you have just said, that it is also important for each one of us to actually learn how to act even in our family setting, using those tools that you like, to really realizing our responsibility. For example, we might be married, we might live with our spouses, with our children, and we as people who are on this path of consciousness, of meditation, of self-development, it is important to realize our responsibility for that. Therefore I'm saying that it is very important to, along with other things, whatever else you are doing, just learn about love and kindness. Love, kindness, acceptance, very important, because once you bring this into your family setting, then everything changes. And actually it's also one of the points that I wanted to discuss today, how to make personal change. But yeah, just something I was thinking about while you said that.
There are many topics which you hopefully can connect today, and let's not waste time with further smaller, let's say, questions which I have on my mind right now because we will be speaking spontaneously about all of it. The last thing before we go into this, let's say, controlled chaos, is I ask you to introduce yourself. You can actually tell us about yourself whatever you like. Maybe actually some of these topics that you like to open. The only things that I would ask you to, because this is now the first streaming of both of us, introduce yourself.
Okay. Okay. So basically, I was born in Russia. I lived in Russia up to the age 16. Then my mom and I we left to Israel. So I live in Israel now. Have been living here for many years, and I have been interested in different aspects of spiritual development and spiritual life from relatively early age. So it started, I think, from the age 13 or 14 more or less, but actually I started getting deeper into that around the age 19 or 20, something like that, when I became first exposed to different books about Buddhism, about meditation, about Eastern spirituality. And from then on, I am moving. I have been moving on this path. So at some point it led me to India. So I stayed. I traveled in twice in India for relatively extended periods of time, staying with different spiritual teachers and in different places. And after that, I continued with many, in many different frameworks of spiritual frameworks, learning from different sources. And I would say around 6 years ago, I started my raw food journey. So prior to adopting this liquidarian lifestyle, living on liquids, I had about, I would say, between 4 and 5. I would say, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, close to 5 years of raw food experience where I consumed around 95% raw food diet. And and I'm saying 95% not because I cooked something for myself, but because in addition to that, I consumed a few products that are not technically raw, such as tahini, such as miso sometimes, such as tamari soy sauce. But it was 95% raw, basically fruits, vegetables, more or less fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds. So I have quite a lot of experience, and when I also lost lots of weight because when I started my raw food journey, I think I weighted around 90 kilos, something like that, and right now it's between 50 and 60. So quite a lot of weight. So I'm much lighter now in my physical body, and it feels very, very. I feel good with that. And but also very, very fast I started getting into realizations that it's not just physical process. When you go raw, you also get into emotional cleanse.
Yes.
You get lots of emotions. You face lots of emotions that you didn't even think were there, that were actually suppressed by these heavier foods.
Yes.
And then you need to know how to deal with that. So, and then at some point I started exploring even more those subjects that I had already been familiar with, but those subjects that are even more, that they became even more relevant. How do you get emotional? How you release stuck emotions? How you release emotional charges? How you actually what do you do when you get particular emotion, and then you were used to eating this emotion down with food, suppressing this emotion with food. Now you don't have it. Yeah, like you. Even with raw foods, your ability to suppress emotions, it still exists, but it is less. So you need to deal with them. So how you do that? And so then, and then I actually started exploring this particular subject of raw foods and emotions, how you transition to raw foods successfully. And then at some point, also about 1 month, 1 month and a half after starting with the raw food diet, I also started my YouTube channel, but actually it's in Hebrew, so probably most of our listeners will not be able to understand that. At some point, I also started my English raw food channel, but much later. But actually, I started exploring this subject of connection between food and emotions, between food and other aspects of our life, such as relationships, such as our happiness in general, such as our life purpose in general. And this subject, I have been fascinated by this subject for quite a while. And I discovered many things in this realm that actually connect your raw food journey, your fasting journey, with many other aspects of our lives. And yeah, so and then I explored my research. I extended my research into other areas such as specific meditation techniques, such as pranic nourishment, like energy nourishment, such as
So we can we say that at that moment you got balanced at the step with the food, and just like you said, there are other accesses to the same process. You started to discover other possibilities and balance yourself on other areas.
yeah, we might say that with one correction, that actually what prompted me to explore other areas are different imbalances that I faced,
Yes.
even within the raw food realm, because I could see because in raw food, usually when people start with raw foods, then they feel great initially, because the body feels much lighter, starts cleansing, and you feel more clarity of mind, more energy. But then at some point you plateau. At some point you discover, and you know, I'm talking, of course, about my personal story, but also I have been listening to quite a lot of accounts of people, especially on YouTube, who also who basically describe the same experience. So, and then when a person, then at some point your energy might go down. You might start experiencing different physical symptoms and stuff like that. Now, many people in this point get into this idea of deficiencies, and then they start going to that realm, and many of them unfortunately get out of this path into meat-based diet and stuff like that. But then there are other people who actually see themselves this plateau as something to go to delve into this realm of energy feeding. And this direction appealed to me more. It interested me more.
So just I'm not sure if I'm completely understanding it. So it's like this. My experience is the same. It's just a question about the words. So I confirm that. But if you reach that, when I reach that plateau, if I understand correctly, it is like the choice. You can use that in order to make one step further, or you can, let's say, get lost in it, and then you make one step back. But when you make step back, it appears like a solution.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm sure that those people who changed, who got back to, let's say, to meat-based diet, they would not agree with you that they made this step back. Like, they would call,
Yes.
no, it was step forward for us. But yeah, but for all intents and purposes, we'll understand your what you mean exactly. Yes. So we can go higher. From that plateau, we can basically go higher into this realm of energy nourishment. And we can actually use this plateau in order to realize that the food itself is a kind of an abstraction. So it's not particular deficiencies that you encountered, but the very fact that you are eating that you eat. Maybe you eat too much, or you eat you eat, but maybe you eat too much, or you eat
Yes.
maybe wrong food, a little bit wrong foods, or something like that. But you might also get to this realization that the very fact that you are eating, there is something you might say it wrong, or something out of balance with
Yes.
this very fact.
Yeah. I just can bring up an example about the emotions, how they triggered me 5 days ago, actually. It happens with me. I was 2 days on tea, only tea. Uh, I understood what I was doing, and I have already this experience, and I wanted to go further than 4 days this time. And I know that the third day, it will be something critical. On the third day, I had no problems with physical exhaustion or physical disbalance. No emotions appeared in the first place. But what appeared in the first place, what brought me out of balance, was the understanding that I actually am totally fine, I feel good, and I do not need to eat. I understood that, and this kind of sent signals to my body. The biochemistry started to readapt to this new understanding, and at that moment, I felt within myself like, now I want to eat something sweet. So now there is a desire. This is the moment when it appeared, and I thought to myself, okay, the lesson for me can now be to fight against it, or the lesson can be, I have the choice how I walk this path. And in my personal story, I have been forcing myself the last years a lot. So this time I told myself, okay, if you don't want to deal with that tension, now make a break. I made a break actually. Today is the third day. I'm going out again on fruits, and soon again on teas and stuff like this. This is just a part. But this is exactly how emotions and food in that moment have been working.
Amazing. Yeah, amazing. Yeah, amazing experience. Yeah, like we learn from everything. We learn from every experience. Therefore, I would also say that to the people, to our listeners, that don't blame yourself for, like, for example, you went sometimes on fruits, and then you got back to heavier foods. Yeah, just don't blame yourself. Just notice.
Exactly.
Just put mindfulness there. Just notice this heaviness. No, just notice what this kind of food on the practical level, how you feel now physically, how you feel mentally, how just try to spot what led to that without judgment, just in terms of your observation, and then just learn from this experience. Very
It
important.
is a teaching how to love yourself.
Yeah, love yourself, and how to use pretty much every experience for learning. We're here to learn.
Yes. This is actually the higher vibration. I'm one of these guys who said, I'm not feeling anything but the physical world. So in the beginning, I told like, okay, everything, energy, prana, that's not part of my experience. I experience physical reality here right now. But yeah, I lost the point right now. But I lost the point right now.
Yeah. You said that in the beginning, probably prior to delving into this realm, like you were describing your viewpoint and your reality before that, probably.
It's
Yeah.
about diving deeper, exactly, yes. Yeah. Okay,
Okay.
let's what is about today? You are not guiding, it's like if we speak about communities, you have a community that where you are actively participating and speaking with people. Can you tell us a little bit about that community?
Yeah. I have a very successful WhatsApp group. We practice weekly fast for 24 hours. We fast together in a synchronized way, people from different countries. And we fast, actually, the purpose of this community is to cultivate this habit of a weekly fast for 24 hours with the option of extension. I usually, like for the last few weeks, I have been extending my weekly fast from 24 hours to the area of 40 hours, so just taking it up to the next morning. But we have right now above 90 people from many different countries, from Iran to South Africa, really, like from the States, from African countries, from Middle Eastern countries, from Asian countries. Really, very big, loving international group. Not every participant fasts every week, but so we fast between Friday and Saturday. We start at 12 p.m. On Friday by the British time, UK time, and we fast for 24 hours. So before each fast, we actually I send a message in this group asking people to announce who is going to be fasting this week and just what kind of fast they will be doing, whether it's water fast, juice fast, dry fast. It's open for it's very open-minded group, and there are very experienced fasters there, and there are people who are new to fasting who are doing more juice fasting. But I just want to tell you how it started. Prior to starting that, I had been practicing this weekly 24-hour fast for some time, and I was just thinking, it would be more fun to for few other people to join. So I just put a post in a group called Dry Fasting on Plant-Based Diet on Facebook, and I had few first people who also wanted to do that. So then we did it together through WhatsApp. There was one guy joining, I think, from Kenya, and another few people from Europe. I don't remember. So and then we were posting different inspiring things and inspiring quotes, and it was lots of fun to do it together in terms of vibrations, in terms of energy. And then I posted it again I think in a few more Facebook groups, including the first one. And I just received so many replies. I did not expect to receive so many replies. I would receive more and more replies from people. Yeah, I would like to join. It's a great idea. Please add me, and things like that. And then from being like 5 people, immediately, like in 2 or 3 days, we grew up to maybe 50 or 60 people. And then I posted this same thing again, and then we had even more people. So right now, every time after I post, I usually do that every few weeks. I usually post my WhatsApp number and a short description on about this group on different relevant Facebook groups where people usually fast. And I still get people who just want to join, and it's lots of fun. We exchange different inspiring quotes, experiences. People ask, for example, if a person has a particular physical issue, they might ask if there are other people who have experienced treating this particular issue with fasting and with different holistic methods. We also have different webinars where we invite mostly our group members who have experience in fasting or experience in other areas such as pranayama, like breathing techniques, to give webinars. Yesterday we had a movie night where we watched over Zoom. We watched together a movie about a documentary. In the beginning there was light. It's a documentary about vegetarian lifestyle and many other activities. So it goes really well.
That's amazing. What do you think is the difference? Why after the first post you made 2 people came, and the second time you posted so many came? What do you think was the difference?
I think on the practical level, I just changed the style of the ad. So because the first time, I think it was something in terms of, I have been practicing it for some time, and I'm just looking for buddies. I'm just looking for other people who would like to join me, something of this sort. I don't remember exactly, but the second time I presented it as an existing group of like-minded people, and I think I also described a little bit of the purpose of it. I don't remember, it was quite a while ago, but on the energetic level, once you start something, it it snowballs. It starts accumulating the energy. So even if we look at it in terms of energy, then you create an entity, you create a group, it becomes an entity,
Yes.
and this entity starts snowballing, it starts accumulating the energy. So we could also look at it from this point of view.
Yes, that's what I thought in the first place. You charged yourself with the two people in the first place, with happiness, with joy, with support, and then the second time this energy is simply, yeah, it's like enlightened at a bigger structure in my head. This is always what I see. Right now, what I
Yeah.
saw again.
Yeah, and I would like to share this experience with people. So just if you have particular passion, just do something small. Even if like, for example, you like to read books. Okay, just advertise. Just go on a relevant Facebook group and just advertise. Okay, I would like we're like once a week we will have by Zoom. Over Zoom, we will have a reading of this particular book. Okay, if anyone, or we'll share our ideas about different books that we have read, and start and just do that. Okay, just do that, and you will see. First of all, you will get lots of energy from that. You will get lots of satisfaction, and you will also share your talents with other people. You will bring more light in the world.
Exactly. What many people at some point lose ability to recognize in life is that they can choose their reaction if they are in a condition of, let's say, happiness, of courage. It is like if I'm on the street and there's a car driving at me with this full speed, and I understand that if I don't step aside, something bad will happen. So, people who are, let's say, chronically out of balance, they would say that I need fear, I need that kind of emotion in order to step aside, in order to react differently. So they will not understand that if you have courage, if you have self-confidence, if you know what your talent is, what your potential in life is, that you also can step aside. Because for them it is like a confrontation. You challenge yourself, you challenge your fears, and then you confront them. And this is an ability that people are losing, but it is physiological. That's how nature is working. Nature is working for connection, for fusion. It creates. It doesn't happen because we try to escape some kind of a collusion. We create connections. We create life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Unfortunately, many people are blocked into their, in their insecurities, and including social insecurities. And but again, even if we start from the corner of food, of lightening up our diet, then people experience changes on all levels, including social level, including their ability to communicate to other people. Yeah, and then this opens the door for people to really realize, to really bring about the manifest their passions, or not passion. Maybe you could call it passions, or their deepest desires, deepest desires to serve others in certain way and share their gifts with others.
Talents, potential, yes.
Talents, potential, exactly.
Okay, now let me shortly repeat that. If you are interested in anything of what Arik has told us, you can connect with him. And for those of you who have wanted to join the live, but know now that we have changed the schedule a little bit, please feel free to comment, to say hi, or anything like that, so that we know who is speaking with us, who is connecting with us. You can ask questions and then we will reply to that. Of course, it's just the beginning, and I know that it is very chaotically, but it's like Arik said, it is a snowball and we are going further. Now, I would suggest, before we go into certain topics which you have on your mind and which we can open up very interestingly, I bet, into details, I would suggest we have a small break, 5 to 10 minutes. I call it now the commercial break, because in between I will be entertaining you with some of the things which I invite you to discover with me as well. And in 5 to 10 minutes we can continue with the talk that we have open right now. If you like to say some last words before you mute yourself, just feel free.
Yeah, I just want to say that that if this idea of fasting once a week appeals to you, you are welcome to contact me. I think we'll provide the details, And yeah, and also if you have any personal questions related to the subjects that we talked about, and maybe some other subject that you were thinking about, you can also contact me. I provide personal coaching. I help people, and it's for donations. And for donations, I really mean it. So you don't have to pay anything, or you might pay as your hearts, as the wish of your heart. You decide. The idea here, because I have other things that I do for income. This is kind of a knowledge that I just love to share.
Yes.
So please feel free to contact me. I like working with people and think, and maybe thinking together with the person how to deal with the particular things, how to improve particular areas in their lives. So please don't hesitate. I'm here for you.
Thank you very much. Um, Let me think about shortly how is the space here right now? What do we want to start with? There's something that I feel like telling about the immune system. Like, the immune system is an amazing thing. We have something that we are born with. It depends on the, let's say, genetical background, the historical background. We are born with it. We are born to have certain abilities which are suited at the place and time where we are born. And of course, the ideas which are given to us in order to realize in life, they are maybe pointing far forward. But we have also the ability to adapt at the current challenges in life. And this is the second type of the immune system that is told. And we need to face and accept challenges in order to adapt and to change ourselves. It is like let's say God is giving us the challenge now, right now. It is a challenge. We need to change our way of living in order to survive. We need to show that we are listening to God, to the universe, to nature. But if we do not change ourselves and remain the same after the adaptation, then it appears like we didn't adapt actually, but somehow forced life to adapt at us. And on the other hand, if we become flexible, if we let go of everything that is not necessary anymore in our life, and then only the pure, the clean remains, then this is a real adaptation. And we are showing that we are useful to the given situation. So this is part of our nature. This is how our body works. This, of course, is imprinted also with our emotions. For example, conscience. Where is it coming from? Of course, from our ability to listen. So I do not hurt other people the way, like, it is not useful for myself, so I do not hurt other people because I also do not want to be hurt. But it is like a natural law. So like a law of karma. But very few people know, and let's say this is well known, but it is something that is not officially taught, that the immune system actually also help us to regenerate ourselves, help us to change, to transform, because it trains us. It trains it just like the foods that we are eating, it changes the body, just the same way the immune system, by responding to challenge, it changes ourselves. So I used that now to describe, I used the point of view of immune system to describe, as I would say, call it the work of the mind from a physiological point of view. And the work of the mind that I have here in my view is simply said that we cannot escape our challenges in life. We cannot escape what is going to happen in life. The only things that we can achieve is to come too late or too early. So it's like in a mood going to cinema. We cannot miss the movie. We cannot miss our life. As long as we are alive, we have the capability to realize our potential. The only thing is that we can come too late and miss the main part of the movie, or come too early and then the movie hasn't started. So this is just a metaphor uh, maybe to give trust, to courage, to go into the unknown, to let go of the known. From that point of view, I want to ask you now, Arik, what would you like to speak about?
I would like to discuss basically how a person can make change in their lives, but maybe more in detail, like in relation to different areas of change, and in each area which aspects they should address if they want to make change, because many people think that if they want to make change in their lives, they need to do something drastic, such as leave everything, divorce their spouse, go
Yes,
to
exactly.
India or go somewhere. And yeah, but then even if they do that, they just take their prison with them. So because the change should start from inside. Uh, so therefore it's important to, I think, to really discuss this subject so that people have more viewpoints on how to make, how to produce real change in their life.
Then please give me a few points, an overview. So which would be of these topics like food, meditation, work with emotions?
Yeah,
S
yeah, I would most of the subjects we already touched them in this conversation. So I would say that lightening up the diet in general and introduction of the fasting into life. Then communicating with like-minded people, because we took it in terms of like creating global spiritual community, but here a person just needs to find community of like-minded people in whatever interests them. Like if the person is a musician, then people who like to discuss music, for example. If the person is an artist, just are just something to talk to, not to be close in themselves with all his or her ideas, but just to really communicate. So that's part of it, and then also communicate. Meditation is a general term, but I would like to talk more about the importance of mindfulness meditation, because person can do meditation but for many years and maybe even get calmer. But if we want a drastic change, then we need to develop mindfulness, and it means something that we practice during meditation, but we also apply in our daily life. And definition of mindfulness, and it's basically being aware in this particular moment of what you are doing, what you are thinking, what your emotions are. Just being aware. Okay, so that's mindfulness. And if you're mindful enough, then you can also act in much more conscious way, in much less automatic way. So I would like to discuss this subject as well, and also the subject of life calling, of life purpose, and finding your life purpose and actually implementing it into your life step by step.
I just want to point this out because I have been working in the spiritual area like for 2.5 years or 3 years, and I got to know many different aspects of spirituality, like what you said basically: meditation, diet, breathing, communication with people. Yes, workshops where you learn something new and solve your problems, for example, about your family disbalance. And what I have found is that they all basically work together like in a big picture. So it's like you cannot disconnect breathing actually from, let's say, from eyes, from vision, or you cannot, because you need to cut off your head, or you kind of, it's not possible. Or the digestion, breathing influences digestion as well. And I just want to point this out because lighter diet, and then I can kind of, like try. It is the main homeostasis of the body. We need to eat. Try not to eat. If you are unprepared, you will face the consequences very soon. So if it is
Mhm.
something that connected with the belly, mindfulness, I would connect with something like the work of the head brain. So like there's it is told you have three brains, main brains: the head brain, the heart brain, and the belly brain. communication is the action, interaction with people. You need to feel for that. So emotions, the heart. And the only thing that I would add on top of that is life calling, because that's what attracts you. That's the sexuality, that's the sexual energy, that's the unknown that attracts you. So these are really the main foundations. And I really cannot point this out enough. They all work together at the same time, and we can find them, let's say, for example, in other teachings of people. I can call now a few names, but I just don't want to do that because it opens other topics. I just want to say this is very what I think is, let's say, a new big picture. Out of all of it, I would ask in the first place maybe to go deeper into mindfulness and meditation, because especially mindfulness is something, let's say, unknown for me. I hear it here and there, but actually mindfulness I have never experienced it, never practiced it in some way. How would you give me maybe a few first steps, how to start it, how to prepare maybe?
Absolutely. I would like first to, so that you understand the importance of it. So usually we act in a very automatic way. Usually we have different stimuli, we react to them with our liking or our disliking, our emotional reaction. This thing makes me angry, this thing makes me sad. I might be happy, but then I'm exposed to a particular kind of news, for example, or I read something on the internet and suddenly I find myself upset. But it's totally mechanical. Like we really have usually, like how most people live, they live in a mechanical way. They have this little bit of hunger in their belly, and then okay, I'm hungry, I need to eat something, then they eat, then but just mechanical life, just kind of machine-like life. Now, mindfulness is something that whose purpose, something like the purpose of mindfulness is to break this mechanicalness of life. And it starts from developing your awareness on a daily basis. So it starts with particular meditation techniques, which you practice in an organized time throughout your day, for example, an hour a day or something like that. But then the idea is to implement it, like we practice it in order to implement it in our daily activities, in our communications with people, in our in eating, because there is this subject of mindful eating, in our work, in everything. So as I said, the definition of mindfulness is being aware of as much of the things that are going on in the present moment as possible. Because usually how we live we do something, but our head is in a totally different place and our feelings are in a totally different place. So and we are not aware of all these. Now if I'm here talking to you, but in this very moment I am aware of my body. I can sense my body. I can sense for example, the coldness in my palms, or I can sense because I'm sitting cross-legged now, and I can sense one foot touching the other leg, things like that. That's part of mindfulness. It makes me more aware. If in this moment, in addition to that, I am aware of me speaking. Okay, so I'm saying words, but in the background, I am aware that I am speaking to you. I'm talking to you. That's another level of mindfulness. If in addition to that, I'm aware of my surroundings. I'm aware that there is a computer in front of me and there is a window on the right of me. Then there is another layer of mindfulness. If then the next level is these are not when I talk about levels, it's not something like written and hard. It's just But for example, then there is this level of how I feel inside emotionally in this very moment while speaking to you, while being aware of my body, while being aware maybe of breathing, etc., etc.
Yeah,
Being aware. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I just
Yeah. Sorry, sorry.
Sorry,
Please
I
say.
just want to explain this because this other level, I understand it as a recording of this mechanical behavior. So it is like an
Hmm.
imprint of mechanical behavior towards a certain reaction. If someone tells me a word, a certain story starts being executed by the body mechanically. And this is the other
Yes.
level. And these are different levels stored in the body. But each level, of course, imprints as a holographic universe everything else as well. But this is just a story that we have imprinted in our body and mechanically. So this I would as a level. Please continue.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So mindfulness. Um, uh, when you practice mindfulness, you actually develop this ability to be more present. But now many people talk about being present, but on the practical level, it just means to be aware of different things that are going on. And and then if you have developed this ability well, then you can take it into many daily situations. For example, you with your spouse or with your friends or at your workplace. Let's say you there is a particular situation and you are bored. You feel boredom, but then you do not identify with that. Instead of because usually how most people would react. Ah, it's bored. Yeah, I have to do something to entertain myself. Maybe to eat. Usually the main solution for people is to eat something
Yes.
when they are bored, when they are angry, when they are frustrated. That's the main solution of people. Now, if you're mindful enough, if you have this ability, and it's like a muscle, you develop it, then you can say to yourself, okay, there is boredom there, but on the other hand, you sense yourself as something different from this boredom. You are separated, or in other words, you develop this inner witness that is able to witness what is happening with you without identification. In Buddhist practices, they worked. That's actually one of the main goals of Buddhist practices, such as vipassana, just to observe. So it starts from you just observe, and even when different things come into our mind, such as boredom, such as anger, such as other things, what perpetuates them, what makes them alive actually and persisting for a long time, is our reaction towards them. It's not the thing itself. For example, if I am angry, I can be if I'm just aware of it, exactly as it is, exactly as energy. When it subsides, it ends it might end in a few seconds. But if I react to it in any way, either by telling myself the story how bad this person is and how I am justified in being angry at them, or by blaming myself why I got angry again and shouldn't get angry. All those things they provide food for this anger, and then I might find myself angry for several hours or even several days. Or there are people who find themselves angry for many years, just rather than just let it pass in a few seconds. So all this actually is the realm of mindfulness. Mindfulness is basically self-observation, is creating this inner observer, and creating it in with the purpose of acting more mindfully or more consciously in the daily life, more compassionately, more rationally, more in alignment with your higher ideals, etc.
Is it something that is best to start with meditation? What would you say?
Yes, absolutely. I can also put, if you will allow that, below this podcast, or when I post it on my channel as a YouTube video, I will put a link to a very good booklet of a person with who is my teacher currently, my meditation teacher. This person is a Buddhist monk from Canada, and he provides free service, like free teaching for everyone who is interested. And he has a very, very good introduction booklet into mindfulness meditation. So what it means and how to start. what to start with. Very, very simple. You can find it in many languages, in English, in Russian, in Hebrew, I think in German, French, like main languages, and it's very simple. But basically, yeah, it's the best way to start is with formal meditation, such as observing breathing and observation of breathing and observation of thoughts and emotions. But just and you know, when you first start it, you will find yourself still identified a lot. Like yes, how different thoughts comes to you and it triggers you, and you start thinking it, and maybe after 3 or 4 minutes you catch yourself. Yeah, I've been thinking for the last 3 or 4 minutes. But the very fact that you caught yourself, and then you get back into this observing mode, and you observe this thought as if it were a cloud just passing in front of your consciousness, then that's how we learn. And it's called basically the basic technique called Vipassana. There are many different styles of Vipassana, but whatever kinds of Vipassana you undertake, it's fine, because pretty much all of them are related to sitting and observing what's happening. So, yeah.
Okay. I have a question and I want to sum it up shortly so that the question is understood best. Okay?
Yeah.
So mindfulness, in other words, as if I understood correctly, is expansion of consciousness. We use that term as well. Is it so? We expand our consciousness, we start feeling more, and therefore we gain kind of a distance. We can agree on that, right?
Yeah, so the main point there is just impartial observation. Impartial means objective. And many people miss this point. Even people who are years into meditation, into other practices of meditation, who do different visualization techniques or other things. So for many people, meditation acts as a kind of escape from their daily activities. So a kind of a break, kind of a means to relax, which is also good. There is nothing wrong with that. But whatever kinds of meditation you are doing, I think it is, if a person really wants to jump to another level, even in terms of food intake, mindfulness is a must. And I want to say why. Like, I'm sorry, can I
Please,
talk
yes.
1 more minute?
No.
Yeah, because practicing mindfulness, you actually develop this muscle of impartial observation. Impartial means objective observation. So, and you can apply it towards anything you want, towards your emotions, towards your thought, towards behaviors of other people, towards everything. You can also apply this if we talk about transitioning to raw foods and fruitarianism and liquidarianism and implementing fasting and maybe Breatharianism, energy nourishment. You will get on this path, you will get a lot of different bodily sensations, bodily patterns, emotional patterns, thinking patterns, behavioral patterns, and you will have less and less ability to numb yourself down with food, because you're obviously reducing your food intake and you get back towards liquids and stuff like that. So less and less ability. You need very, very strong tools to counteract those things, to actually so that those things don't find yourself unprepared, because you don't want to find yourself in the loop of a particular fear for too long, or in the loop of particular other emotion for too long. Here, where mindfulness comes in, so you get this fear, you don't have this tool of food to numb yourself down anymore, at least not to the extent that you had in the past. So, but on the other hand, you have this tool of observing. You say to yourself, okay, for example, within the teaching of this particular teacher with whom I'm working now, so you actually label it, like, for example, fear. Instead of getting into the story of the fear, you just say to yourself, fear, 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 while observing it, and then it becomes neutral. It just becomes kind of energy, kind of sensation, and then it just passes. So that's mindfulness. And the mindfulness is a very, very applicable and very, very useful for people who are on this journey of moving towards lightening up their diet and implementing fasting lifestyle.
Yeah, in that from that point of view, so it's very useful what you said, because now I would say mindfulness is even the foundation for the consciousness to be able to expand.
Yeah, 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 absolutely, absolutely.
This is totally beautiful what you say, and it makes really sense. It is like you start to observe and recognize something like false flags attacks within your body. So certain processes which are happening mechanically without an actual real cause. So a false flag attack. And then you simply save energy. You still have at some point to replenish the energy with food, but you can also save energy simply not by replying to this false flag. I just use it and I this
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. I would like to add to that that we lose tremendous amounts of our energy on negative emotions, on different mechanical behaviors, mechanical movements, and stuff like that. But on totally unnecessary thinking and emotions, lots of our energy just gets wasted. We wouldn't waste money if we had enough. If we had a big sum of money, we wouldn't just throw it away out of the window. But that's what most people do, like people who actually lack those tools of mindfulness. For example, person might get particular fear, and in 5 minutes of this fear, they might lose tremendous amounts of energy needed for doing something really creative. And when we are mindful, if we are just able to let things pass as if they were clouds, then yeah, then for example, I don't know if you know, but I would like to mention there is one spiritual path called the Fourth Way that was brought by great Russian mystic George Gurdjieff. Have you ever heard about George Gurdjieff?
yes, not researched, so I'm very interested to hear anything you say.
Yeah, so one of the main, no, one of the main things there within this teaching of the Fourth Way is actually this understanding of how much energy we waste on the subject of with negative emotions and unnecessary thinking and necessary movements and stuff like that, and also how to work with that. So if you can just research George Gurdjieff, and especially there is a book written by one of his students. His name was Peter Uspensky. It's called in English "In Search of the Miraculous." It's a tremendous book, and it's quite a shocking book in terms of teaching itself and realization that you can get from there. But they also talk a lot there on this subject of negative emotions and how we can save this energy that otherwise we would waste. So yeah. Okay.
Um,
So that's what I.
Beautiful. I want to repeat to the question, so I have written it down, so I don't can return to that, so that I understand the picture here, the process of mindfulness. And okay, so it's the foundation being mindfulness, and then I become the witness. I get used to that, and then I start observing objectively what is going on. It
Yes.
really is that I understand, so I want to point it a little bit from a different process. And I agree totally. I just want to explain it from a different process. The situation of being a witness, physiologically speaking, again, just yeah, is such that any cell that we have, that the body is made out of, it acts like a processor. So information goes in and information goes out, and this happens always. So there's an input, processing of the information, and an output. This is even physiologically visible. So it is not only on the level of, let's say, some elements, it is also physiologically, that's how cells are building connections with each other. So what I want to point out here is that the information between input and output is not the same, but in the situation of processing, when you observe the process happening, the processing going on. This is, as I understand, the situation of a witness, because in that moment you do not participate in that. You have let go of the process, and then you simply observe what is going on. And at that moment, I want to ask, when people manage to enter in that state, when they are in balance, and let's say in the first place they spaced out, and then they understand, oh, I was 5 minutes right now somewhere else, so I wasn't mindfulness. The next 5 minutes, maybe they can be mindful and observe, okay, I'm sitting here, but I'm spacing out. And my question is, what is the difference? Why do some people have, when they start to be in that situation, in that balance, some people have more thoughts and some people have less thoughts? So some people tell, I finally was in a situation where I had no thoughts at all. So I observed, so to say, the emptiness, and there was nothing. It is like everything is an illusion. And other people tell it is exactly the opposite. For me, for example, obviously, I perceive a chaos of information at some point sometimes. And so, what is the difference? What would you say?
That's a very good question. You know, in terms of mindfulness, you're just you are because it's impartial, because it's objective. You just observe whatever you have. So things. Sometimes you have more thoughts, and then you're just aware you have thoughts in your mind. Sometimes you have no thoughts. You have kind of emptiness, and then you just register. Okay, so now it's emptiness. Now no thoughts. Sometimes you have a very pleasant thoughts or very constructive thoughts, so you might be aware of that. Sometimes you might have destructive or obsessive thoughts, and you might be aware of that. So I don't know. I just know that there are different. So there are many phenomena of the mind, and for many people experience different phenomena. But in terms of mindfulness, what is important is your ability to observe and not to identify, and the phenomena itself is less important. And people can just get many things. That's what I know. People might get very wide range of phenomena in their mind, in their emotions. But in terms of mindfulness, what is important is to actually to develop the ability to observe. Because if you have this ability to observe, then it might bring with it this higher intelligence of discernment of like if you find yourself in a daily situation, then if you have this ability to observe, then let's say you have some kind of a destructive thinking pattern, you can just you have more control over it, you can just more let it go. But on the other hand, if you have more constructive thinking pattern, something, for example, you have those great ideas, you can actually realize, okay, now I'm having these great ideas, and to act accordingly, maybe write them down or something like that. Whereas, for example, when you are in a less mindful state, then like your attention might be totally somewhere else, and you might miss both of them. So you might not notice any of them.
People should not compare themselves also with other people when they speak about some experience, like a teacher. As you said in the beginning, we are friends, we are not teachers. If a
Absolutely.
teacher is a definition of someone who repeats some information, tradition. So this is a definition of a teacher. And so people will
Yes.
have no other choice but to compare themselves with this information that repeats itself again and again. But this is
Hmm.
so we have to understand exactly like you say how I would say how the mind works, but it is like we have to understand this moment of being a witness and observing the process and not the phenomena that results out of it or that come forth. But
Yes,
actually,
absolutely.
yes,
Yeah,
please.
and I just want to add, and then while doing that, the magic happens because when you develop this ability to observe, then they want to say, okay, then automatically you notice different things that, first of all, you notice how you notice the connection between, for example, between thoughts and between bodily sensations. And that's a very interesting realm to observe. For example, if you have worries, where exactly you feel it in the body. And in general, you notice different things that might cause you suffering or might cause suffering to other people. For example, you have particular fear, or you have anger, for example, and if you are mindful, if you are in the observing state, you can actually feel your body really stressed, and you don't like automatically, like you don't want it, and then you can just drop it, but not because you have learned in a theory that it's not good to be angry, but it was the natural product of your mindfulness, just letting go, because no one wants to suffer. No one wants to suffer, and then you, for example, if you are angry, or if you are upset, or if you are worried, or something like that, if you are in a mindful state, you just understand what it does. Like you understand that, for example, in this kind of state, you cannot think clearly. You don't feel so well energetically in your body, but it's not because you learned it from theories, but you can actually see that. You can actually see that with your inner vision. And once you see that, it is totally different than reading about it in the book. And then automatically you act in the right way. You might let go of those things. You might do something to calm it down, because no one wants to suffer. But what I want to say is that your behavior starts to change, not because you read something in the book, but because you actually observed, because your eyes have opened.
And it is a miracle, I would add, that people may have forgotten at some point in their life that it is experience that takes first place, and only out of experience we then extract information, make out ideas out of it, and then, for example, sell these ideas to
Yes.
each other. You, you,
Awesome.
you,
Awesome.
you touched miracles, this word, you mentioned it, miracles. And I just want to say,
Mhm.
isn't it that we all want miracles?
If we want miracles, we want
We want to believe
yeah,
in experience.
I would say probably we want to understand more how things work. And then if we know natural laws of things, then we become able to perform things that might look miracle to other people. But actually, but I think that what underlies it is just understanding of how things work. So I think that we should actually strive for deeper understanding of things.
The only thing that I would add here is that I believe that prior to understanding a thing is the experiencing of that thing. So in the first place, we experience
Yes,
something.
yes, absolutely. Experience is a part of it. Understanding, I don't mean just intellectual understanding. I mean just to really observing,
Okay,
analyzing,
yes.
understanding the connection between things, and also learning from other sources, learning about universal laws, and then we can perform for example, if we were sent back to the past 30 or 40 years ago and would show them the modern iPhone, it would look like a miracle to
Miracles,
them.
yes.
But actually, so that's in the physical realm. But also these things work in the spiritual realm and in the emotional and psychological realm.
So a miracle is basically something that we do not understand yet.
Yes, yeah, I would say that. I would say that. Yeah.
And by certain practices, for example, of mindfulness, we can get into the condition of not understanding what happens, but simply observing that it happens.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. But when you observe, when you really observe, then you have more chance to understand also why it happened, even though your intention in this mindfulness practice is not to analyze, is just observe objectively. But because you're a conscious being, then obviously you see. I will give you an example, very simple example, so that we are not just talking theories. In terms of food, I have worked with people on transition, have coached people on the subject of transitioning to raw food diet. My advice to them would be like, even if you get back to, for example, you were raw, you stayed raw for some time, and then you get back, you ate a cooked meal. So just remain mindful. I called it then in the coaching session, make mental pictures, mental photography pictures of your states after eating this meal. So just observe yourself, just make a picture, just stop for a moment and make a picture of how you feel in your stomach after eating this heavy cooked meal. After that, just stop again and make a picture, really like with your inner camera. Make a picture of your emotional state, of your mental state. So probably you will get some kind of a brain fog because lots of energy goes to digestion. Probably you will feel heaviness. Probably you will feel some kind of sluggishness. Probably if you were, while being on raw foods, for example, if you were engaged in some kind of creative activity, probably now you will experience that you have less energy, less desire to be engaged in that. You might, maybe for it's not 100% true what I'm saying, because people are different, but I'm just giving an example. So then, if you're mindful, on the other hand, the opposite of being mindful would be just to get into to blaming yourself why I ate this, just to get depressed and watch movies all night. That would be the opposite. But or I don't know, or just do something else. Yeah.
Not only negative emotions can disbalance ourselves, also positive emotion can get into a way. I can also tell examples here. It's just a fact.
Yes, 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 but I just want to finish my thought. But then the very fact of observation, of course, you will make the connection. Okay, so I had this particular kind of food, and that's how you feel now. How I feel now. On a very subtle level, even within this realm of raw foods, also you might be mindful after eating certain foods, you might feel in a certain way. After eating the other foods, you might feel the other way. You might feel lighter. You might feel better. That's how you learn about what foods are more compatible for you than other foods. So and mindfulness is required for that too, because you eat something, then you observe it objectively, and then after that you connect. Like this particular kind of food that I ate, it produced certain kind of things, but for that you need this muscle of mindfulness. You need this ability to observe, and that's exactly what you develop during mindfulness practices.
Yes, beautiful. We went very deep into this topic, and I feel like we found a point from which on we can, like, it's like endless. It's like we can go into immortality from that point on. But let me just give another direction so that it doesn't get too endless. So what about the other seasons of life? So when let's say we started with mindfulness and we established this understanding that we described right now of being a witness, so that we have the ability to drop. It's like to perform a miracle, to forgive, not play according to rules, to drop what we don't like or to do what we actually like, however. And then
Yes.
I will just now tell, we have other, let's say, seasons, it's sweets, like a
Yes.
lighter diet or communicating with people or the life calling. So can you make
Yes.
now another a step further from mindfulness to one of these three seasons?
Yes. Yes. First of all, I would like to touch a little bit more about this food realm, not too much because we talked quite a lot about that, but just to give one a certain principle that helped me a lot on my journey. And for example, if you go into raw foods, and then, as I mentioned, you get lots of emotional patterns and lots of mental patterns and lots of behavioral patterns thrown at you in the detox process because things just come up. You cannot numb them down anymore with these heavier foods. Now, it is important, it is very helpful, in my opinion, if at that point you just decide while going to raw foods that you only you only look for solutions in the realm of raw foods because you're a raw foodist now. So going back to cook foods in order to numb your emotions down is not a solution for you. It's not an option for you anymore. But on the other hand, in the realm of raw foods, you have to allow yourself full freedom in terms of, at least in the beginning, in terms of quantities of food you eat, in terms of what food you eat, in terms of, so you have to compensate. For example, you leave behind this cooked food realm, you go into this realm of raw foods, and then obviously you still have certain things, you still have emotional eating, like we are not perfect, you still have emotional eating. So you have to decide with yourself, okay, now I'm remaining in this raw food realm. All the solutions for my emotions and for everything that comes, I'm looking for them, for the solutions in the realm of raw foods. And if I need to eat more food, or if I need to numb myself down with heavier foods, such as more fatty foods, avocados, tahini, and stuff like that, I will do it. It is allowed. But I am looking for my solutions in the realm of raw foods. And then you balance out in the realm of raw foods. That's what helped me. It might not work for some people, but I just want to share. It's called, I think, life hack, if I'm not mistaken. Like just you don't go back. Like going back on to the realm of cooked food is not an option anymore. But within the realm of raw food, you allow yourself freedom. Because in the beginning, for example, when I got into raw foods, I would be eating most of the time throughout the day, like at least most of my free time. I have a little break. I would eat some fruit, a banana, dates, eating, because the density of these raw foods are much lighter than cooked foods. So I would just say to myself, okay, I don't restrict myself now. And then you balance out. Then as you proceed, it will balance out. But that's basically, those are few points that I wanted to clarify, like to share about from my experience in the realm of raw foods.
This particular suggestion, it is a game changer for me again and again and again. Sometimes I'm not balanced enough to remain, let's say, on a when I decide that now I will be fasting on tea. Sometimes I'm not stable enough to go on longer than 2 or 3 days. Then in that case, I allow myself, let's say for example, to drink a lot of different kinds of tea, just a lots of amounts. So I just want to say, what you said right now, to go all out, also in other examples with raw food, or I have experience where I was 2 weeks on juices several times, and other experiments. This particular suggestion is always a game changer for me. Allow yourself to, especially in the beginning, to go all out, but especially on the step where you are right now. Find new solutions on the step where you are right now. Don't use the same old mechanical applications that you are used to. So it is very important, I find
Yes,
it.
absolutely. Yeah, thank you. I'm happy it helped you. I also want to give an example. When I got about 8 months ago, maybe a little bit more even, it was around 8 months ago when I got onto the liquidarian lifestyle. Again, in the beginning, I just said to myself, okay, now I'm leaving solid foods behind. So, but I'm not going to limit myself. I'm going to drink, for example, as much juices, as much soups, as much whatever I want, as long as it is liquid, because I want to balance. I want to establish myself within this liquidarian realm. And then, as I proceeded with that, then things balanced out. In the beginning, I used like I used salt, for example, that I haven't
Yes.
been using for a while. Now, then I left that behind. But in the beginning, I just said to myself, okay, you want to add salt, I just add it. But as long as it's liquid, as long as it's liquid, you're allowed to do whatever you want. Okay, at some point I would also juice garlic or something like that to get stronger taste, and then I stopped with that because again I thought I just noticed that it affects my mind, not in the best way. But anyway, that's so you establish yourself in a certain realm, like you have total freedom, but within particular realm, and then you establish yourself, and then you start balance yourself out, maybe with eating window, or maybe with the particular kinds of food that you consume and then you don't consume. But in the beginning, full freedom within this particular realm. And that's actually what worked for me, when I transitioned to raw foods, because I like process of eating, and I especially liked it then, when process of eating. So I said to myself, okay, so now even you're leaving cooked food behind, but now as a compensation, you can eat most of the time during the day. It's lots of fun. So then, out of restriction, it becomes freedom, it becomes
Becomes freedom.
abundance, and then you establish yourself there on this level.
Um, about a month ago, I was in a rhythm of eating only on weekend. So I was 4 days on water, and 3 days on the weekend I was eating. Okay, this I just allowed myself to. I was basically most of the time liquid, but like apples, for example, fruits, and cooked food simply wasn't. I wasn't able to digest it, so I wasn't eating it. But something like nuts that went out in the same way. I know the connection is not very good right now. Um,
Mhm.
I allowed
Okay.
myself to add supplements. So, for example, I took water, also with coral powder, sea coral powder. It has lots of calcium, magnesium, things like this. And I simply observed that when I have cravings, I can support my body also with supplements which have no taste, which makes the water simply give it a certain quality, and I support myself out of this craving. Another time, I also discovered that, for example, the taste of salt, a little bit salt in water, it makes the water a little bit more heavier, and this heaviness, in the beginning, it helped me. And basically, I discovered
Absolutely.
that it's all I wanted. I wanted the water to be a little bit more heavier. And
Yes.
very soon, just a few days after that, after I got the sensation of heaviness, I understood that the water also it doesn't feel good when I poop out because it is not very good for the skin. So at the same time, after that, I understood that okay, so there's a balance. Sometimes not too much water with salt, as an example. So I came to the conclusion that supplements are very useful at some point. And from my
Mhm.
point of view, this is another game changer. When I speak about fasting, I really encourage people to observe why do they have a certain crisis? What craving do you have? Because if you have, let's say, a crisis which is connected with your ketonic bodies in the blood, you have a sensation like you have not enough energy. But when you have a cleansing process going on and you have a lot of proteins in your blood, then you have a sensation, I have the sensation, like I'm stuck in sand. I have energy, but I cannot move. It's a different sensation of weaknesses. This is what I observed on myself, and I have tested my urine, my blood, the glucose levels. So I observed this, and I concluded these kind of emotional sensations with certain signs of physiological issues, disbalances. And therefore, I said to myself, okay, so if a crisis means I'm out of balance, and in the beginning, then allow myself to go all out on that step, for example, by adding supplements.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's a good strategy. Yeah, there are lots of strategies. I think it's a part of each of our personal journeys to find what works for us and what balances us out, and actually what helps us proceed on this particular lifestyle that we have chosen in this particular level. So yeah, so I think supplements might be for me. I can really see the connection between this liquidarian and fasting lifestyle
Mm,
and empty bowels. So when, for
yes.
example, when I enter my daily fast with empty bowels, then it goes much smoother, and also different processes, different energetic processes go deeper. So right now, so just again for our listeners, just remember, if you there is tremendous connection between the content of bowels and cravings and the easiness with which you, with smoothness with which your fast will go. Yeah, with your cravings in general, with your desire to eat foods. So I usually, so right now, for example, in my living conditions right now, I don't have an option of using enemas for empty bowels, for example, before fasting, but I do use natural tea, natural herbal tea that has a kind of mild laxative effect. Sometimes, not every day, of course, but every now, especially before fast, after fast, whenever I feel that I'm a little bit clogged or something like that. And also juices and when you liquid diet in general, liquidarian lifestyle, it acts as natural cleansing. Things like beetroot juice, for example, beetroot juice have mild laxative effect, and many other things as well. But I just want to, and then each one of our listeners can make research and discover, and again try different things, what works for them. But I just want to say that once you make sure your bowels are empty before you fast, for example, it's a real game changer. And you clean out when you clear, when you become more and more clean and clear on different levels, then you usually see your life purpose more and more clearly. But a very good question that helped me in clarifying for this question for myself is, what would you do if you had all the money and all the facilities in the world? So the money, facilities, equipment are not a problem anymore. Like you have all the money that you need for your life, for the rest of your life. Now, what would you do for the heart? What would you do? What would you do for your heart if you had all the money? Like, you don't need to work anymore for money. What would you do? And you should direct your thoughts in the direction of service to other people. After asking yourself this question, that's what I would recommend. Like, in which area would you like to serve others if you could, if you had all the resources in the world? And then there is a good chance that something will pop up, something that you will discover at least the end of the of the wire, like at least a glimpse of what it would be. And then from then on, you can proceed, and you can also self inquire further, and you can also start implementing it in your life. But I hope that we will extend this subject and talk more about it next time.
Definitely. I just can say once again, I'm amazed how much it is resonating with what I want to continue and to actually to manifest. This is exactly the same reason why when people work with me, my first question is, what are you interested in? What is the direction which we have chosen? So that's how it starts. Okay, if you have any other last words now, please feel free. Please, you can tell us maybe how to connect with us. You can leave any comments, and you can also name names and sites. So it's totally open. You can just like advertise, so to say, whatever you want.
Yeah, absolutely. So, first of all, on YouTube, you can find me. I have a YouTube channel called Raw Change. Raw Change, that's raw, like RAW, the change, CHANGE. So that's Raw Change on YouTube. And then, just a moment. And then also, if you want to join me on this fasting journey in the fasting group that I manage, this international fasting group, which fasts once a week for 24 hours on the weekends between Friday and Saturday, you can send me a WhatsApp message with your name, and I will happily add you. Of course, it's for free, just don't do anything, of course. So my WhatsApp number is plus 972, which is the code of Israel, then 50 825 8755.
And I will.
So I will repeat it again, plus 972 50 825 8755. Thank you very much, Igor, and I hope that it was helpful, that we were of service to others, and see you next time. And thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much as well. Looking forward for the next time. All right, guys.
Me too.
You to the listeners, stay tuned, and I wish you best. So see you around.
Thank you. Bye.